No, it's just kind of funny to me. Like take whatever is enjoyable in life, and if you force it, it is no longer enjoyable.
Yeah,
like
that's why charity works and socialism doesn't.
End on
Pin
that,
drop.
bro.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I just watched a Tuttle Twins episode, so I'm fired up on socialism. Okay, listen, let's start. 1, 2, 3, we are live with the Oregon Grape. Thank you for being here with us. We took a little bit of a break in the studio. We have Eddie Matz and Luke Doyle, my own flesh and blood.
What up?
How you boys doing?
Tired. Tired.
Yeah. I am so not
this guy
tired.
worked today.
I'm full of energy.
That's the thing. That kind of goes into like why we've been away for a while is because if you're not aware of this is not our full-time job. We all work after this.
Well, I'm not getting paid for this?
No, I'm afraid not.
No,
and you can't unionize. Yeah.
Well,
it takes 3 people to unionize if we can get Andy.
Yeah.
Andy's not here for this. Andy's not here for this episode.
Yeah. Well, you guys will have to plan that union strategy next time.
But we do have part of the reason is work. Another one is holidays, and another one is we're kind of restructuring how we do things here on the channel.
Yeah.
So we're going to hopefully soon have a video out where we're going to go over kind of our plans for this coming year and all of the new ideas we have. Some of them might be a little later down the line than others, but...
Yeah, no, I think we probably will do kind of like a promotional episode at one point talking about all that. We almost made that this episode, but I think it was my fault. I had all these other topics I wanted to talk about.
There's kind of a lot that's happening, guys.
There's a lot that's going on, both local and global. So let's go ahead and hit our little list here for the day. This is the agenda. We got global news, JFK assassination files to be released. Transgenders banned from the military, and thousands of illegals say adios to America. Sorry if that's offensive.
Bye-bye.
Eli
news.
has a lot of time on his hands because he did this whole PowerPoint.
Spent a lot of time making this PowerPoint, so you guys better
graphics.
appreciate the hell out of it, okay?
They're going to be good.
Yeah. Local news, homeless population kicked out of encampments, and new city council opens meeting with a prayer.
Amen.
And apparently there was a little bit of a dispute around that because people like to get their panties in a bunch over separation of church and state, even though it's not even a part of the Constitution. So
you guys ever get stuck in a scanner chat?
Oh no!
Yes.
That's
I don't have social media.
You don't want to be a part of.
Yeah, I don't have social media, but every once in a while, like I have it, but it's not downloaded on my phone. But every once in a while, I'll need to buy something on Facebook Marketplace. Yeah. So I'll type in facebook.com, log in, and then like the first thing I normally see on there before getting into Marketplace, because I get sucked in, it's the scanner chat, and it's someone who's like, "Man, will you tell your cat to stop meowing at me?" And it's like, bro, like this is kind of funny that this is what makes its way onto.
That's my daughter. She's a furry.
Exactly. So no, it's kind of funny though that's where I learned about the city council prayer thing.
Yeah.
Was I was scrolling through the.
So people were mad about it, huh?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because the comment section was mainly positive, but we'll get into that.
Yeah. We'll be hitting all these topics today. First of all, do you guys want to hit this JFK assassination file thing first?
Well, you said you had a lot of thoughts on it.
Well, I did, just because of, it's kind of funny when you talk about files being released. A lot of people go to, okay, well, what about the Epstein files?
Yeah.
What about like Thomas Crooks? Like you bring up that name and people are like, who is Thomas Crooks? And it's like the guy that tried shooting Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Like everyone just forgot about that. And it's kind of interesting because it seems like there's a lot of things that the CIA or FBI might have a lot of information on that are current that aren't being released.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like, I mean, I voted for Trump, and I'm kind of the mind that he's a better force for good than he would be doing anything bad. But it seems weird to me that the JFK files are something a lot of people want released. Mm-hmm. But it was like 50-something years ago. I don't know how much it affects.
So you wish he would release more recent stuff?
I wish it was like that and everything else.
Yeah, I do too. But it kind of makes sense why you would wait on recent stuff because of like different incriminating things for living people or whatever.
Well, so the thing about this is, one, even if these were to be released, what would be in there? Everything is probably scrubbed already.
The JFK files?
Yeah.
You think they're just going to like redact everything?
The MLK ones, most of it we already know.
Yeah.
We already know the FBI's involvement.
You know what I don't know about the MLK? Yeah. Here, let's do this. Let's read a little bit from this executive order.
But I also want to say very quickly, the CIA waits a certain amount of time until they basically can't get in trouble for something, and then they'll release it.
Statute of limitations.
And they'll be like, wow, isn't that crazy that we did that once? You can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
But
like,
I just
guy
want to
who
put
ordered
this
that,
out
he's
there.
dead now. So what are you gonna do? You know.
Well, but they're always like, oh, isn't it crazy that we used to do that? We don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Of course.
Right.
But we used to.
Yeah.
It's true. What were you going to say on the article?
Well, I was going to say here, this is the executive order here. So here's a little bit of language from the executive order. So Section 2, declassification and disclosure. Within 15 days of the date of this order, the Director of National Intelligence and the Attorney General shall, in coordination with the Assistant to the President for National Security Affairs and the Counsel to the President, present a plan to the President for the full and complete release of records relating to the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. And then within 45 days of the date of this order, the Director of National Intelligence and the Attorney General shall, in coordination with the Assistant to the President for National Security Affairs and the Counsel to the President, review records related to the assassinations of Senator Robert F. Kennedy and the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and present a plan to the President for the full and complete release of the records. So within 45 days, within 15 days, they're going to be working on the JFK, and then 45 days, they're going to move on to the MLK stuff.
So something to note in that release. I just realized
I spelled executive order wrong on this slide. Oops.
Well, you did a good job reading all of that very quickly and precisely. But what I would say
call me the Ben Shapiro of Southern Oregon.
It says the full and complete release of the records. That's really important because different presidents have released different amounts to kind of like soothe the public. Yeah. I think Obama and I know Trump did in his first term, but there's different, because I tried looking it up to see if they were available yet, and I couldn't find any. But it showed in 2023 that even Joe Biden released some records, but not the full and complete records.
Even when I was reading some more of this executive order, it was saying that they may reserve the right to redact some certain things. So we still might not even get the full thing.
There's going to be things in there that like there could be files that are like images, or there's something called the Zapruder film, which I don't know if you guys know what that is, but basically a guy had to deep dive for a really long time to get access to this video of an alternate view of him being shot. And what it looks like is the driver turns around with a gun and shoots him in the head.
Weird.
I actually have a theory about that.
And then
Eddie's real big on conspiracy theories.
And then
what do you think? Do you think it was an inside job?
I think he was shot by a Secret Serviceman, but I think it was an accident. So I know somebody.
Safety was off. What are you gonna do? You know,
it was a Glock.
It is reported that
they didn't do much training back then. You know, they just.
It is reported that the Secret Servicemen were drunk. They had gone drinking the night before.
Wow.
And I know somebody who worked.
Things were so lax back then.
I know somebody who worked on that specific model of gun. And that gun had a lot of issues with firing on accident.
My problem with that
I feel like that's a way bigger. That would be a way bigger coincidence than that they wanted him dead.
He said that he looked at the video and you could see the guy like fall back in his seat, and that he probably, when the first shot went out, he got startled and fell back in his seat. Sorry, I hit the mic. Fell back in his seat. Yeah. And
those are on loan. Don't break that right now.
I think it's unlikely just because
they always talk about where was the second shot. You can hear a second shot, but you don't see it.
Wasn't it 3 shots? The article I was reading, it just says multiple shots. Yeah. This was a little clip. I found an article on it. Former Marine Lee Harvey Oswald, 24, had positioned himself from a sniper's perch on the 6th floor of the building and fired multiple shots, killing the president, according to the official story.
But Lee Harvey Oswald also worked with the KGB.
Yeah.
So
I think it was the driver, because if you look, Jackie, who's sitting next to JFK, climbs out the back of the car.
Okay, but why did they kill Oswald then? Because he was killed during a jail transfer by
so that he couldn't say it wasn't
guy.
Him. So that you would kill the guy who knows that it wasn't him.
He was up there bird watching. He didn't even know the president was coming by. No.
Throughout history, there have been times where presidents have been assassinated, and their assassinator has been killed by other people who were angered by it.
Thomas Crooks was killed instantly.
Why would a mobster be mad about it, though?
A mobster?
Yeah, well, supposedly a nightclub owner, Jack Ruby, and supposedly he was like a mobster or something.
You know what's kind of interesting to note is
JFK, his family were known to be quite the partiers and go to clubs, and they probably had mob ties.
Here's some pictures of him. I was telling Eddie before, like, no homo, but isn't Lee Harvey Oswald kind of like an attractive guy?
People definitely
could have been a male model,
yeah.
But instead he decided to, be a murderer.
Yeah, but if you look, it's one of those things that
just goes to show you chart your own path in life.
Well, I'm pretty sure he had a very low IQ.
Oh, okay.
That is very sad. He got shot in the head next to his wife.
I feel like that's normal for male models,
Like, look at JFK in that picture. Like that's moments before he dies.
Yeah, he's
and he
himself.
Was a president that was trying to keep America out of wars. Yeah. And it's like that's something I think a lot of people don't think about getting into
all while
logics
sleeping with Marilyn Monroe.
Well, he's only human, all right.
But doesn't that kind of get lost?
Was that true?
Pretty sure.
Yeah.
Doesn't that kind of get lost in all the like talk of like, oh, like was it 2 shooters and like was it like, because that's all important information, but it's like that's kind of sad that the guy who was running the country and keeping us hopefully out of a huge conflict.
Yeah.
Why do you think that like every
Just
single
gets shot next to his
every
wife.
single like let's change the past story has to do with people saving JFK? Because everyone seems to think that history would have gotten better if he had survived.
Yeah.
Like that book I lent you.
Yeah.
That was his whole reasoning for doing it.
Yeah, because people would always talk about how things would have been much different in America. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's one of those scenarios where Trump's bringing this out, I think probably less because he's super interested in it, but people like Joe Rogan are, and a lot of people who listen to Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that
It's
I
almost
feel
more
like
of a campaign promise thing.
Campaign promise that he's like, I'm going to stick true to this because people want it. And he's kind of thinking he was advised not to by a military advisor in his first administration. He was advised not to fully disclose. And this time he doesn't have to run again.
Kind of like a good way to get Trump to do something, like have like an advisor tell him not to. He's like, fine, we're just going to do it. No, I'm making the decisions here, right?
Well, and also you think about it, his first term, he was going to go for another 4 years. Mm-hmm. There's going to be so much wild stuff he does in this term.
Here's the thing.
Because he's not running
his first time, he declassified things. And it was all just, it was fluff. It had nothing to do with anything.
This could be the same. This could be
I think it remains to be seen.
Yeah. Now, saying that he's not going to be running for another term, did you see that video of him at his rally?
Where he was joking about it?
Yeah, he's like...
You think he's just like poking fun at people or...
I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things that they're saying the Senate could introduce a bill, or however that works. They could introduce a bill that allows any president that hasn't served 2 consecutive terms to serve 2 consecutive terms. So Trump and Joe Biden would both be able to, because Joe Biden only served 1 term and then it was broken up. So technically he could run again, right?
Even if Trump does amazing things for the country and the economy is rip roaring and stuff, I don't know if I would ever support that. No,
I think JD Vance could, or someone else, RFK, anyone like that.
To set.
It's not a good idea. That's you're getting into dictatorship / royalty / like monarchy sort of thing.
Even when George Washington first, he only had 1 term. Like the 4 years, that was all that was originally written, and he didn't want to stay longer than 4 years, but he was afraid that everything was going to fall apart, and everyone kept being like, "No, George, we want you in charge of this."
He didn't originally want to be president.
He didn't even want to be president, but he basically said that, okay, going 1 term or going a second term is already a little too close to dictatorship and monarchy, so we're going to stop it there.
See, and I'm pretty sure that it was Theodore Roosevelt and one other president who served 3 terms, because there are some presidents before it was introduced as an actual law. That only 2 terms will be served. And it's funny because like with birthright citizenship, it's like these different amendments to the Constitution. It's almost like Trump's looking at him like, okay, what can we play with here? Like, what can we, which I'm all for. I think the anchor baby thing is a terrible idea, but it's like,
we'll get into that later too.
Yeah, it is kind of in the Constitution, even though I think people should have a right to vote on it because it's an amendment. It's not the original, but I don't know. It's kind of weird, and Trump seems to be looking at stuff like that.
So back to the releasing of these files and stuff, because we can kind of move on from it pretty quickly here, honestly, because like I think we all said we didn't really research it a bit.
Once they're released, then we can know.
I was gonna say it's really just more something to like mention real quick, and then once it's released, we might be able to do a follow up on it with the MLK thing too, because they're gonna be releasing Martin Luther King stuff too. I'm really interested to find out what the whole deal was with him, like having these affairs and things, because my question was that actually happening, or was this more so like character defamation from the CIA or something?
So the FBI actually did their best to interfere with him, and they sent him letters basically telling him to kill himself,
like blackmailing him. They said we have these recordings of you with having an affair or whatever.
Well, not even just recordings, just like they
used to like bug his hotel rooms.
Yeah, they bugged his house. And they would play noises and like try to make him go crazy. It was a whole thing.
Weird.
Yeah.
We could do that to you for your next birthday if you want.
Yeah. You're a big history buff. Fun. We could reenact it for you,
do a conspiracy theory themed birthday.
Yeah.
Can we hold it at Chuck E. Cheese?
I have a dream of unlimited cheese pizzas and a dancing mouse. No, okay.
maybe not. Let's not...
Yeah. All right, well let's
not improv that.
Yeah, let's move on to this next topic, which I know is a really exciting one for Eddie because he loves the trannies. So Trump is he released another executive order.
I didn't know you were a mechanic.
He released another executive orders that basically repeals a bunch of executive orders that the Biden administration put in that were just all these kind of DEI sort of initiatives to kind of like try and kind of force equity on people and make all these sort of like including. Basically hiring people not based off of merit, but based off of their
specifically the DEI. I am the biggest like who gives a shit.
Yeah,
like these are basically fake jobs. That
the military is not a fake job.
I know, but people can't make up their mind whether or not these are fake nothing jobs that do nothing, or these are jobs that are ruining the world.
Yeah.
You know
what are you talking about?
Like, because people say like that Trump's biggest thing is that he's cutting these due to his whole thing, the Department of Government efficiency, and like he's getting rid of like people who are getting paid a bunch of money to not really do anything.
Yeah.
And then there are people who talk about how this is like the worst thing ever, and it's like ruining.
Well, this is part of that, but I think it's also it's also more. But let me read some of the language on this real quick. So this is from the executive order repealing those initiatives that the Biden administration put in. So Section 1, purpose and policy. The previous administration has embedded deeply unpopular, inflationary, illegal, and radical practices within every agency and office of the federal government. The injection of diversity, equity, and inclusion (DEI) into our institutions has corrupted them by replacing hard work, merit, and equality with a divisive and dangerous preferential hierarchy. So,
So I have something to say on this. The wildfires in Los Angeles were as bad as they were because of DEI. They had the first lesbian fire chief. And it was that she was hired specifically on that, not on merit.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that if you want to find out how bad it is, look at the cities that have implemented it and look at how it's going for them. And all of them it's been going terribly. And the management of resources, and you think about it, and what's someone going to do if they're not hired based on merit, but if they're hired based on the politics of what LGBT group they support. And what's going to happen is their decisions are going to best support their sort of cult religion that they're in. And when it comes to things like, resources like water being devoted or clearing the forests so that you can prevent fires, they're not going to do those things because all their time is going to be spent on, well, how do we increase women in the fire department? And when they talked about actual fire danger stuff, someone said, are you going to be qualified as the fire chief? Like, would you be qualified to pull someone from a burning building, pull my husband from a burning building?
Yeah.
And what she said was, if your husband's in a burning building, then he already made the wrong decision. And it's you're not focused on doing your job. No. You're focused on politics of how do we get as many women in this as possible. And another thing I want to say on it is it's really similar to affirmative action, the DEI practice of like, let's make sure there's X amount of women, X amount of, Black, Hispanic, Asian. It doesn't go based on are you the most qualified for the job or most qualified to get the scholarship. And with affirmative action, it's all in regards to colleges. And there's a ton of Asians that are super qualified to get into these colleges, and they say, no, we have too many Asians, you can't come in.
Yeah, they get excluded because of their race.
Can I make a point to this? Because I'm not in favor of any of this, like the DEI or whatever, but I don't think it's fair to look at that and to look at those people and say, that's stupid, you're stupid, we're done. And I think that there is a reason that people are really behind this kind of stuff. And say you grew up on a Native American reservation, and
how do you know that I didn't?
Yeah, you want to go to college, right? So one of the reasons that we have scholarships to get you into college, and we let you have first pick on the waiting list before other people, is because of circumstances. You're on that reservation. You might not get the same chances as somebody who, say, is white and lives in a suburb and has money and a lot of family around. And
well, but the same goes for a poor white guy in a trailer park. So if you want to do it like that, just do it.
I agree. But one of those guys is poor and lives at a trailer park. One of them is poor and lives on a reservation because the government forcefully put him there.
So I think what you're getting at is something that doesn't really apply, because if it's like low opportunity because of access to schooling or access to resources, DEI is none of that. It's based on the color of your skin and the gender that you choose to apply to yourself.
Yeah, if you want to give people a leg up, you don't have to even include race in it.
No, you can do what MLK said, which is judge people by the content of their character and not the color of their skin. And I think that color of their skin could also be put to pronouns. It's like judge them by the content of their character, not their pronouns. And when people try to get into these positions specifically based on their pronouns, and the whole group of cult thinking of other people who use those same pronouns go, oh yeah, they're a friendly, put them in this position, when they're not worthy of being there. They're not going to do a good job and serve the people well. And in the federal government, you are supposed to be serving the people because you're paid by their tax dollars.
Just to be clear, I don't agree with the idea of that, but I just want to make a point for why people have this sort of thought process.
That there's more to the discussion if you want to have it. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, so speaking of pronouns, part of this is that it's supposedly going to basically make transgenders unqualified to serve in the military. How do you guys feel about that?
I think they're mentally unstable, so they shouldn't be allowed to have a gun. When it comes to like shooting people in a military stance. But here's the thing, if you can't decide what gender you are or what sex you are, if you don't know that there was one assigned to you at birth and you don't get a choice, just like I have 2 arms, I don't get to decide that I have 3, right? Then, and you have to have surgery to get a 3rd arm. You have to have surgery to become a woman. It shows a very clear disconnect. You're not mentally fit. You're not mentally fit to serve in the military.
And I think it's bizarre is that people are very upset about this, but those same people that are upset about it, what I think agree that a high number of people who are transgender commit suicide.
Yeah, it's statistical.
And so it's not even just that they're mentally unstable in the sense that they're going to hurt somebody. Mm-hmm. They might hurt themselves.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then you can also say, okay, well, maybe we should expand that to just basically what the military does, which they do fitness tests, right? Like, are you fit to serve? And I think one of those things is a huge thing is mentally. Are you mentally fit to serve? And a pretty clear requirement should be that you know the basics about health and about who you are, right? That you're a male, you're not a woman. And if you think you're a woman and you're a male, then maybe you're not mentally fit. I think it's like super clear.
So can I voice sort of like an irregular opinion on this?
Yeah.
I think we're missing out on a really big opportunity for like the most advanced covert operations specialist ever. Because imagine,
like the Suicide Squad.
I'm not talking about like the barely passables where it's like, this dude in his 50s and he slaps some lipstick on, okay?
In a dress.
I'm talking about like who's the Dylan, whatever.
Mulvaney?
Where like maybe from a distance, if you're drunk, like you send those guys in to seduce the terrorists,
You could
and
use
then
the
before you know it's
like,
oh, hey, I don't swing that way. And then it's like, tell me all your secrets, So we might be able to, I'm just saying.
Well, you just think like they're not going to notice until after they have sex with the person. They're going to be like, you're not going to heaven anymore after that.
Trump introduced the Space Force, but next is the TTF.
They're like, well, it's better than a ghost, I guess. I don't know. Like,
it could be a thing.
So offensive. Go ahead.
Whoa, cut his mic. He's about to start laughing.
No, I don't know. I think I could be swayed the other way if someone from like the transgender community was like, hey, I think that aside from me being a male thinking I'm a woman, I get that's crazy or whatever. I think I'm fit to serve the country. I'd like to serve the country. You could do it on an individual basis. I don't know if it's good to make a policy because maybe there's some that are more mentally fit than say other people.
I haven't really read the language on the order either. It might just be that he's returning it to this merit-based system, and naturally it's going to exclude transgenders just because of these medical things that go along with them.
Well, and also a lot of people
have to stop mid-battle to inject testosterone into your ass.
We're all hinging this on something that is very funny, as if the military cares if you're mentally stable.
You know what I mean? Within boundaries. They need to at least be able to control it, direct it.
Who was it that said they don't want, because there was a whole thing on the Air Force having maternity suits for pilots, and it's if you're pregnant, you probably shouldn't be flying for the Air Force. You're dropping bombs on Nagasaki, like 2-month bump or whatever, and it's like, that's a little
how
weird.
impressive for that baby, though. Seriously, how impressive for that baby, though, to like be able to like, listen, I was doing like 9 Gs before I was born, baby.
But it's one of those things that
people already a veteran.
People were talking about that, and they were saying essentially how we shouldn't be taking the weakest among us or the most vulnerable among us or the ones we're supposed to be protecting, women and children, and putting them into the military, right? You kind of want that guy that's like from Alabama and a little unstable, shot his neighbor when he was a kid because he stole his cat. Like, you want that guy to be going and fighting your wars.
Taking out squirrels with his BB gun.
But here's the thing, though. So I think this whole thing with the transgender in the military, I think, is a symptom of a much larger issue with the military. Mm-hmm. And over the years, they have repealed a lot of the requirements every year.
Women used to have to do 20 pull-ups. Now, then they dropped it to like 15. Now they don't have to do pull-ups.
Well, not even that. Even for men, because the generations get less healthy.
Why are we getting weaker?
Yeah. And so the military is like, they don't have enough people. They got to like keep dropping the requirements so they can actually get people to join.
Yeah.
Well, wasn't it during the Biden administration we had like one of the lowest sign-up recruitment rates in like a long time?
No one wanted to go to war with
for Sleepy
Iran.
Joe.
Yeah, because who wants to fight alongside chicks with dicks? It's not.
I don't think that was it.
I think it would have prevented me from signing up. I don't want to be in a shower room with that, Yeah. But you guys want to move on to some stuff about illegals?
Before we do, one thing I wanted to say is the whole him making it a merit-based system for the federal government and all their hiring, and also him making it the clear standpoint of the U.S. government that there's only two genders or two sexes, however it is.
Pretty strong stance.
I think that is such a necessary shift for our country because it never should have gotten this far. It never should have gotten to where it is, and I think it's such a necessary shift. And as someone who has kids, I'm like, that makes me really excited because it makes me feel like my kids will grow up in a somewhat normal society if we can get back to that.
Yeah. But what does that even mean for the government to take an official stance? The people that care are just going to ignore it.
Yeah,
and what's to stop the next president or the president 10 years from now from repealing it again?
It's true, but we as a country started believing like, oh, I guess that's normal when it's not. Like when Obama got into office, more people thought gay marriage should be illegal than didn't. Like we weren't even a pro-gay marriage country in 2008.
So you're saying the president's stance can affect culture quite a bit.
And then he legalized gay marriage, and then you see it's gone this path of like, okay, well now the gay marriage, it's snowballed. Stuff, and so I think it's a huge deal that he made it the public policy of the United States government in their hiring practices and the way that they operate that no, there's only two genders. We're not gonna fund your little programs of transgender treatment for because I mean healthcare systems pay for this stuff. Like there's a lot of money being exchanged.
Wasn't that a part of the military too? Is that like the military had to pay for sex change operations,
even
and things
for illegal
something?
Immigrants? We were paying for stuff that like it doesn't make any sense. They found out the whole DOG thing, the Department of Government Efficiency. When they got in,
that's the acronym.
Yeah, right when they got in, they found out there was supposed to be $50 million going to condoms for people in Saudi or something like that.
I think it was, wasn't it Palestine?
Palestine? It was in Gaza. That's what it was.
That's the street you live on, right?
Yeah.
No, but it's just crazy because it's like all of these funds, all of these decisions are tied to funds, which is our money and your money. It's like it's all tied to the money that we give the government. And it's not just like a light thing to say like, oh yeah, there's only two genders. It's like, no, that makes it to where now we're not going to fund all of this crazy crap.
Yeah.
Okay,
let's talk about some of this illegal alien stuff. So ICE arrests nearly 1,000 illegal aliens during 6th day of Trump administration. I think, so that was like on a Saturday, and then on Sunday they arrested like even more. I think it's like, I think we're probably close to like 2,000 arrests or something happening now. It's crazy. One of the things that this highlighted to me is, do you remember on like, you remember on the campaign how Trump would always like, he'd be talking about immigration and he'd be like, we know where they are, we just need permission to go get them. And I didn't like really know like how true that was. And then like, almost 2,000 arrests in a weekend. It's like they literally, the local police, they know all these people. They just needed permission to do it.
I don't know if you've ever seen like a well-trained dog that like the owner's like, sit, go. And they like tell it to go and it's like, whew, that dog's off. Like
that was the
waiting.
local police force.
That was like
illegal
ICE,
immigrants.
Right? Yeah. They're like, as soon as Trump gets in.
I've got some family I should call to see how they're doing.
Dude, so I don't know if you guys caught any of the White House press briefing with Caroline Leavitt, I think is the new White House press secretary.
Yep.
She talked about how ICE was doing these raids, and she talked about some of the heinous crimes that those people committed. Yeah. And she's talking about how like we knew where they are, we know the stuff they're doing, and we could get them out. The whole situation that happened with all the Colombians that they sent back. It's like, it's really crazy how much she's doing in the first week.
Yeah.
And then she was talking about how it was like 1,000 people, and one of the journalists says to her, 500 of them weren't convicted of heinous crimes or whatever.
Yeah, I remember that.
And she's like, they were convicted of federal crimes of crossing the border illegally. And then it turned into this big discussion of, so is he going to deport everybody, or is he just going to deport the criminals?
That's such an interesting point, because I was watching that press briefing as well, and it really shows the brainwashing that's gone on with the media and some of the public. Is like, imagine if you were to travel to Canada, and then like you were just illegally crossed over into Canada, and they were like, hey, you got to get out of here. And then you're like, why? What have I done? And they're like, well, you broke the law. Mm-hmm. You came over the country illegally. Mm-hmm. It's like, yeah, but what did I do? It's like, that's it. That was the law definition you broke, Mm-hmm. Imagine just like having that entitlement to be like, yeah, but what did I do wrong? Like, oh, but what did they do wrong? They came into the country illegally. Mm-hmm. That's a crime. And a lot that's enough.
A lot of them blame the system being broken of it takes money to get in. Sorry, my throat's like sealed off.
I know. We were almost going to do a disclaimer. We're getting over, we're kind of under the weather a little bit, me and Luke.
Cough that way, man. I don't want to get whatever you got.
Yeah, what is it, the Black
Whooping
Plague
cough.
or something? Yeah.
No, but a lot of them complain about like the high cost or the permitting or how hard it is to get into the U.S. legally.
Yeah.
And I think that
it is, dude.
it would be good for Trump. No, that's
yeah.
what I was going to say. It would be good for Trump if he was also putting in policies to make sure he was letting in all the best people. Merit-based.
Be a nice olive branch.
It'd be a nice, hey, like we're kicking this many out and we're letting this many in. Because our country can handle a certain amount. But I do think it's important that he deemed the cartel a terrorist organization. Duh. Why would you not? Like, how many people die of fentanyl per year? It's 100,000, I believe.
Well,
yeah.
It's like,
not to mention the beheadings.
Oh yeah. You know, it's terrible, and it's like it should have happened a long time ago, and it lets you know like how it could have been done a long time ago, and how many deaths could have been prevented.
Yeah. So speaking of like kind of like the violent crime thing, you got to listen to some of these like this like quote here. Okay. So Fox News witness ICE Boston make 8 arrests, including multiple MS-13, Interpol red notices, murder and rape suspects, and a volatile Haitian gang member. Listen to this Haitian gang member. He told Fox News, "I ain't going back to Haiti. F Trump, Biden forever." Like that definitely shows. Like whatever like view you're on, that shows that the opinion even of these immigrants was that Biden is the guy if you want to come in illegally, right? Yep. And so it's kind of like you're either for legal immigration or not, but it's pretty clear who's the person who's going to like.
And then if you don't require ID to vote, you can just let all of those people fill out a ballot.
This guy seems reasonable. He can vote in my country.
Right,
I'm okay with that,
It's just one of those...
Was it rape suspect? Was it murder and rape or just rape? If it's murder and rape, I have questions.
It depends on which order it was in. Then I'll make up my mind.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Sorry, I don't like to think about that.
Here's some pictures of some guy getting arrested. There's some stuff going on.
Is that your cousin, Eddie?
Yeah, Eddie, that's your cousin, isn't it? Yeah, that's good stuff.
What's that big vacuum? Wait. Is that one of those UFOs from New Jersey? What is that thing?
I have no idea what that is. Yeah, I don't even.
Did you hear in the press
looks
briefing?
Like it might be on a. Maybe it's on a.
Trump said what the UFOs were. Kind of.
Oh, you mean the drones?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like some.
Oh, sorry. Did I say UFOs?
Yeah.
I meant drones. Yeah, he said what the drones are, and he said they weren't hostile, basically, and he said a lot of them were hobbyist drones, not to sidetrack us, but he said basically they knew about all of them. They were doing research and something else. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was interesting.
Yeah, no, it is. It's that's interesting stuff.
Honestly, it's probably just the government developing a new way to bomb people. They don't want you to.
When I heard that those drones were just tests, I was like, I feel like you're not telling us everything.
Yeah,
it's like when the government.
That's just me.
When they made the
B-12
when they made the B-12 bomber and they tried to keep it super secret. That's what Area 51 was. They developed the B-1 bomber in there. The B-12 whatever. And that's why everyone wanted to get in because they weren't telling them what was going on.
The B-12 vitamin.
Yeah, the B1 bomber vitamin deficiency vegan.
Yeah.
But like people would literally see it like flying when they're doing tests.
It's
be
aliens.
Like, it's a crazy like stealth plane, and the government would be like, no, it's not. That doesn't.
It's our stealth plane.
Yeah.
Do you think the police are enjoying this? Think about it from your perspective.
They're probably happy to be able to have the permission to clean up their towns.
Dude, if I were a police officer and I had been seeing illegals and wasn't been essentially like tasked with taking care of it, dude, they got in a armed conflict at the border.
Yeah.
Cartel members started shooting at them and they returned fire. This is like, it's turning into kind of a culmination of the last 4 years of like the last 4 years have been the public policy on the border has been super lax. And so, okay, you let someone stay in your house for a night and then you're like, yeah, you can stay for another week. But then after a week, you don't tell them that they have to leave. And so then they're there for a month and then they're there for a year. And then one day your mom comes in and is like, okay, get out. Like, and they feel like they belong. They're like, no, this is like, I'm allowed to be here. Mm-hmm. It's one of those things where it's like the new public policy is you're not allowed to be here. And there's a clash that happens. You
ever think about how like the feeling of like going from the past 4 years to like this year now is it's kind of like dad's been gone for a long time.
That's what everyone's saying.
And now he's home and it's like, oh shit, we got to clean the house now.
Yeah.
We got to, turn off the TV, It's like, it's a very much like tough love sort of thing, but
feed the dog, but the dog's dead.
And no, the dog's a transgender.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Betty, what did you do to the dog?
What did you do to him?
No, but it does feel like that. A lot of people are saying it's like, oh, the adults are back in charge.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like because it was just running amok, and specifically the
And
border.
we'll see where it goes. There's a lot of, the thing is like, I feel like economically, some of the things that Trump's doing, there's no doubt that it's going to have benefits for the
drill, baby, drill.
Yeah, just that alone.
Yeah.
That alone.
I'm not really in favor of a lot of that kind of stuff.
Drill, baby, drill.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you in favor of instead buying it from Saudi Arabia?
No, but I
Because they got environmental laws than we do. Ours are way better.
Way better
I have
at
no
it.
problem with drilling. I have no problem. I think we should get our oil and stuff from America, but I'm not a big favor of like going to Alaska,
Like romanticizing
one of the last frontiers. And
I do think you got to be careful with those
Save
resources.
the polar bears. Save the polar
But
bears. So that they
fracking
can
is one of my
murder
favorite
penguins.
words. I don't think there are polar bears in Alaska. I think it's only in Antarctica.
grizzly.
Oh, is it just grizzlies?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it shows what you know.
But they're cool.
Yeah.
Hey, sorry, I didn't mean to go all National Geographic David Attenborough on you.
Yeah.
The polar bears. But I do think it's important when you talk about those things like
It's a terrible David Attenborough impression.
Okay, I'm not the impression guy.
Can you do it, David Attenborough?
I don't know if I can. I saw this really great video of him like explaining bees, how like bees are like positively charged. Like, as you can see, the bees are positively charged and the flower has a negative charge. The pollen jumps from the bee and then he goes back to hang out with his queen and they play Mario Kart together. I don't know what
Dude,
you're talking
have
about.
you seen the clip? So there's a bird called a booby, and have you seen the clip? And it's like someone just clipped, and it's like, boobies are superb, and that's it. And then it just ends. Boobies are superb.
Yeah,
Probably was gonna say they're like superb at flying or something like that.
Have you seen a blue-footed booby?
Blue-footed booby.
It's a crazy
superb.
bird. To me, those are the type of the animals where I'm like, God was just having fun.
Yeah.
He's like, let's just make some stuff, you know?
When Adam was naming them, he's like, yeah.
Yeah.
But I do think the other thing, back on the policies that he's putting in place economically, he had a speech, I think it was yesterday or today, where he kind of like hinted at income tax going away. That would be amazing.
I don't know how the government would support that.
7 terms. I've changed my mind.
He said they had no income tax. It was only tariffs between 18 something and 19 something, late 1800s to early 1900s.
Yeah.
And he said it was the richest we ever were. That's when.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I'm burping. That's when I think he said Teddy Roosevelt put a lot of the national parks in because they had just money to spend. And he was saying we were economically
the golden age
amazing.
of tariffs,
Teddy Roosevelt.
Yeah.
And there was another guy. I wrote a paper on him in high school. He's from Oregon. And him and Teddy Roosevelt started a lot of national parks.
Yeah.
Not Ulysses S. Grant, even though because he never came to Grant's Pass.
No, it was John something.
It's just a rumor we started to increase
John,
tourism.
exactly. John Something. But he
that sort of thing, like taking away income tax, because
you know what's interesting is I would have to research this a little bit more, but I had heard that income tax is technically illegal in the United States. It was only supposed to be permitted under war times, and it was supposed to be very, very minimal. You know?
Yeah, and I think Trump's looking into all that stuff because he's like, how can I get the economy absolutely booming?
The only thing though is like you think of the massive amounts of money that come in from income tax. Obviously you cannot do away with that right away because the country goes bankrupt.
But how much is being wasted? How much can he save by not
You
sending?
definitely cut it down.
The government is not going to go bankrupt. They take out. They have so much money. They already take.
They just say, "Hey, Federal Reserve,
there are
get
so
those presses
many.
going."
The government taxes you for dying, bro.
Yeah,
they've got so many other taxes, so many other.
That's
places.
actually factually true.
I know.
It's one of the. It's one of my main reasons as my will to live. You know, I just don't want to pass that on to anyone.
Yeah, I need to set up a living trust.
Yeah,
I don't have anything, but if I ever get anything, I want it to actually go to my kids without taxes.
It's a great idea.
Yeah,
it's a great idea. Hey, you want to move on to some local stuff? I feel like you guys feel like we really hit all that global stuff pretty well.
Yeah. So
can I do something really quick?
Offended enough people with our transgender talk.
Can I do the transition?
Yeah.
Local news.
In local news, Betty got a new throw pillow for her couch.
Who's Betty?
You know Betty.
Why are you fondling your mic stand?
Can you stop touching the mic like that? And who the hell is Betty? What's going on,
dude?
Is this a new love interest that we haven't heard about?
I was doing a joke about small town local news. But
local news. Someone found their dog.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about some real stuff. Okay. Homelessness. That is a big issue. As a professional artist, you know, I feel like that's just always in the back door for me. You know, it's just always right
Did you get the video I sent you where the guy who they interviewed interviewed, I think it was News 12 interviewed someone who was getting kicked out of the camp.
Yeah.
And he basically said, he's like, anyone's one bad paycheck from being in this scenario.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying you came to my mind, but it was one of those.
I'm not saying you came to my mind, but immediately you came to my mind.
I always think of when being an artist full time.
Yeah.
And you were like, I'm gonna go down to this city or whatever to go do the art fair.
Yeah.
But I don't want to spend money on a hotel. I'm gonna sleep in my car.
Yeah.
And you were posting a story about it.
It was it was a financial decision, Yeah. I could have got a hotel. I just
I remember my brother calling me. And he's like, "Hey, is Eli? Does he need to borrow money?"
Yeah.
And he showed up at your house with like a box of clothes.
Yeah.
But what I thought when I saw that video of the guy who's like, we're one bad paycheck away from being in this scenario, I thought, what's a bad paycheck? Like, if you're getting a paycheck, it's not so bad. What does he mean by that? What's a bad paycheck?
I don't know. Like he skipped work to.
Oh, like it didn't have as much on it.
Yeah.
That would make sense.
Yeah, something like that.
But the videos of them cleaning out that camp is wild.
I drove by.
Yeah, they had like some heavy equipment.
They had like bulldozers out there. It was like mountains of trash.
So listen to this here. On Friday morning, homeless residents in Grants Pass, Oregon dragged tarps and carried piles on their backs, heaping their belongings just outside the fence. Why do they have so many belongings? You ever think about that? Like, remember when it was just a hobo guy with the hobo stick,
Yeah.
you know? Like
they're homeless.
I see people, they have like a Traeger grill, and I'm like, what are you doing? Like
consumerism.
Yeah, I wish I could live that
they're
well,
homeless, not furnishing less.
Yeah. So they were given until 9 a.m. to get their possessions off the city-owned site. The newly elected city council decided, no, please keep funneling the mic, please.
Dude.
The newly elected city council decided earlier this month to close this campsite, calling it unsightly and unsanitary.
Wait. Unsightly. That's definitely a good description.
Every
time I drove past, I thought
saying it looks like Auschwitz.
Dude, it was bad.
It looks like terrible living conditions. Yeah. So the campsites have received a lot of criticism. They have been called concentration camps and a public health. There you go, public health disaster, and there were concerns about fire hazards and mud. The city did not provide. It wasn't. It wasn't just concerns about mud.
Those are not equal. Fire hazards and mud. They just
sounds like you got
a
solution for the fire hazard. You got all this mud.
It's like they're gonna track the mud throughout the city.
I just thought they're gonna
the mud's catching on fire. No,
I just thought that was funny. I'm sorry.
The city didn't provide shade or potable water, and disability rights organizations claim the campsites violate federal and state law. And then this is a quote from City Councilor Indra Nicholas. "It is unconscionable to me to allow people to live there like that. So to me, wherever they go is better than where they are now."
Yep.
So, you know what? I actually, I was texting Clint Scherf, the mayor, about this because
humble brag.
Well, yeah, I know. But he might be coming on the podcast.
So I think public. I'm pretty sure anyone could text him if they wanted to.
Yeah, I don't know. I met him at that event that we went to. But anyways, so he'll probably be coming on the podcast next week. But I was like texting him because I wanted to get some information about this and stuff. But he was just saying that like, since the removal of those encampments, things are already looking a lot better. Yeah. He had a very positive attitude about it. And I think a lot of people kind of know that. Like, that was not a good way to be living. Yeah. It was very healthy. It was breeding, drug dealing. You know, it was a bad situation.
Breeding diseases.
Hopefully they'll stop.
Here's a picture of some lady hanging out next to a pile of belongings.
Hopefully they'll stop locking the Lego sets at Walmart.
Yeah.
So I don't have to be that guy to go up to an attendant as a full-grown man and be like,
when I saw that, I'm like, is our town going really downhill?
You know, the one with Kylo Ren, or wait, what's his name?
Kylo Ren.
Kylo Ren, please. Yeah.
So with the video I saw that Newswatch 12 did as well, they interviewed a local business owner who was right next to it.
Yeah.
And he basically said it's been hell. Like having my business next to this has been hell.
Yeah.
And so it's gonna be really good that it's gone.
So one of my views,
and just to point out, just for posterity's sake, this is land that the city took from the business there through eminent domain.
There's going to be a water treatment plant,
and they put that there.
Well, that's part of why they had to get rid of it, is because I think it was in May that they're going to be starting breaking ground on the water treatment plant. So, anyways, I wanted to do a little bit of research on how homelessness affects communities and things, because one of my things is that so if you facilitate homelessness and try to make it more comfortable, you're going to breed more homelessness, you know?
Yeah, like it's easier to be homeless.
I don't know how to explain this in a way that sounds compassionate, because off the cuff it kind of doesn't, but it should be uncomfortable to be homeless because you want people to get out of that situation. The Gospel Rescue Mission is what they would call like a high barrier to entry, facility where like you cannot be doing drugs, you cannot be smoking or drinking, so it's a high barrier entry facility.
A
lot of requirements to be in there. The thing is I feel like you can criticize it, we can talk about it. I think we're going to interview Brian Boteller. I don't know how to say his last name. The owner. I think we're going to interview him at one point. You can discuss, how that's a good or a bad thing, but I think it should be kind of uncomfortable to be homeless. I think you should make it to where they're encouraged to get out of their situation.
If you are already homeless and living under a bridge, and you can't grasp the fact that there are consequences to your actions, then you know what I mean?
The thing is like for the Gospel Rescue Mission, and we also have MENT, which there's some talk about MENT at the city council meeting. That's another facility. But the thing about the Gospel Rescue Mission is if you would like to stop being homeless, all you have to do is give up drinking and drugs. That's all you have to do. And then they make you attend church service, which is like, that's a bit of a controversial thing too, I suppose. But that's option. Better than living on the street.
There's an option.
There is an option. So
if I'm starving and I'm on the streets, and my option is to keep doing that or go attend a church service, even if I'm a hardcore atheist, I would attend a church service.
Well, there's also the concept of it's not compassionate to give them like I don't know, like people giving them tents and enabling them and doing these things, giving them essentially more comfort being homeless. I'll give a homeless guy food because there's this concept of like if I have food. I had lunch the other day, right? And I'm walking past this guy and he's like, "Hey man, do you have any food?" And he sees me holding a bag of food, right? And I'm like, "Yeah." I was like, "I don't have a way to share it with you though."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, okay." And I was like, "Is there any way I can pray for you?" And he's like, "You could pray, I could get some food." And I was like, "Okay, will do, bro." And so I walked to my truck and I sat in my truck, and then I realized it's one of those trays that I could split the lid.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, if I go get another fork from Casablanca, I could shovel half this out and I could give him half of it, right? And so, and the verse popped into my head, if any man asks of you his coat, give him your cloak too. If he asks for you to take him a mile, go with him too, that sort of thing. Popped into my head, and I'm like, okay, Lord, like I'll go share my meal with this guy. And so I go, and it was actually like a really crazy experience because I was like praying for him. I was like, what can I pray for you, dude? Like, what are you going through? And he's like, I'm just like trying to sober up right now, and I need food to sober up because I just like am having a hard time sobering up. And dude, the guy's like shaking, putting a rag over his head. Like it was a really unsightly scenario. That guy doesn't need another tent, another blanket, another. Yeah. He doesn't.
He needs intervention. He needs something real.
He needs drug treatment.
Yeah.
And he needs a job and a place to stay that he pays for with his job. Yeah. And he needs responsibility and a way to stay off of drugs.
Yeah.
He doesn't need the scenario that he's in to keep going.
So another anecdotal story that highlights this sort of idea of you have to help yourself to like in order to be helped. I know. I'm sorry. Now I'm doing it. It's like a security blanket thing. It's like, is this tight?
This whole episode's chaotic.
It's very, and you know what? I love it. So little anecdotal story here. I gave this woman a ride not too long ago, and I asked where she wanted me to take her, and I took her to like a corner store or whatever. That's where she went to be dropped off, and she asked for money, and I was like, well, what do you want? Do you want me to get you some food? I'll go and buy you some food because kind of thing is she was obviously an addict, and so I was like, I'll go buy you some food. I don't really want to give you money, because I don't really know where that's going or whatever. And then she was like, well, I want money for cigarettes, and I was like, well, I don't want to buy you cigarettes. That's bad for your health, Just like,
there you go.
Doing a little.
What if she'd asked for Oreos? It's bad for her health. You gonna buy that too?
Probably not, honestly. Yeah. I mean, you know me, man. I would be like, well, we're at least getting the Alden's organic, do something, But no, she was like, I just really need cigarettes. Or I'm like, I'm really sorry, I can't do that. And she like got pissed off, like got out of the car
when you just gave her a ride.
Pissed off, yeah. And it's like, it's like, what are you going to do for someone like that? You know, it's like, so there has to be a bit of accountability. It has to be a decision to get better. Yeah.
I think that it's funny because the general population, I think, agrees with what we're saying, that it's not helping them, it's not compassionate. But I think it's the hard truth to say, because the hard truth to say is it should be uncomfortable to be homeless. Yeah. That way less people are homeless. Yeah. And it should be very uncomfortable, and it should not be something that is state funded. And if you look at California, they funded it heavily and it got worse.
Yep. Yeah.
So it's pretty clear. Make it really hard to be homeless. Yeah. And I talked to someone who was
kind of like an increase in unplanned pregnancies with the rise of sex education. You know,
right? Yeah. It's like it's kind of like that didn't do what we wanted it to.
Yeah.
I did talk to somebody who's a public safety officer, and they were explaining they were cleaning up the camp. They were one of the people there. They said they were there for 11 hours and like barely made a dent. There was a lot still to do.
Yeah.
And I was like, "What kind of stuff are you finding?" And we were eating dinner at the time, and she's like, "Well, it was like." And I was like, "Oh, you don't talk about it at dinner." And she's like, "You don't want to talk about it." But she said that it sounds like and this is just her perspective. She was saying it sounds like from the city council's perspective, they want to make it to where they still stay out of the parks and stay out of these public spaces, but we don't have a place for them, and so they go somewhere else. Basically, make it someone else's problem. Go somewhere where they want to fund homelessness.
I would love to know what the right amount of pressure is to encourage people to get off their addictions and go into a shelter that's going to help them get off.
One of the first steps has to be providing a good route to get them a job and to get them like the basic.
I feel like the gospel wrestling has that.
The biggest thing is headspace. If you're at the point where you're at the bottom of the hole and you're at the lowest point in your life, it's either, well, I'm already here, can't go any lower, and it's, well, I'm already here, it's not like I can climb out of this hole, I've dug myself too deep.
Right.
People tell themselves, I have no future, I have no friends.
They need to believe in themselves.
When you want to know something, the headspace thing is a huge part. I feel like we've all been in a headspace.
Think about how hard it is to help somebody with an addiction that is not homeless.
Yeah.
And is surrounded by friends who are trying to help them and family. Think about how much harder that must be on your own on the streets.
The other thing, too, is that no one in this circle has dealt with a legitimate drug addiction. And I imagine it's got to be hell, you know? Like the things that methamphetamine does to your brain, you know?
The fact that people will do the things they do for it lets you know it must be hell.
Well, so it's when people are having...
I want to go through a couple of these slides in a minute, too.
I just want to make a point, too. When you're trying to overcome an addiction, one of the things that I tell you is, like, when you start having those cravings, change your environment. Like, literally go to a different room.
That's another reason that the homeless camps are a terrible idea, because it's breeding an environment of addiction.
Yeah, but also, like, you're stuck. Yeah, you're stuck in this environment. You can't really... You got to cut your addiction to change your environment, but you got to change your environment to cut the addiction.
Yeah.
And you know why people do things like heroin? Because
it's really fun.
Well, because it makes you think think of it this way. I mean, Grants Pass doesn't get that cold.
Because it makes Dead Mouse actually sound good.
Yeah, but think about this. So Grants Pass doesn't
opened up a can of worms. With
that. Yeah, Grants Pass doesn't get that cold.
Yeah.
But imagine you're homeless in New York City during the wintertime and you're freezing. Yeah. You know what heroin does? It makes you feel warm.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm sure that's why they're doing it, because they couldn't find their blanket.
Well,
no, I get what you mean. Hey, listen, I want you to read some of these statistics I was looking at. I want to see like how homelessness affects communities and stuff. So do homeless individuals commit more crimes? So in a 2022 study, they found that homeless individuals were 514 times more likely to be arrested and charged with a felony, and were often facing multiple criminal cases. And then let's see. 2018 to 21 shows that homeless individuals, while only 1% of the population, are suspects in 6 to 8% of all crimes and 11 to 15% of violent crimes. So there definitely is a correlation between homelessness and crime. I feel like that shouldn't be a surprise, because when you're in a desperate situation,
you shouldn't even have to ask that question.
Yeah, but here's another thing that I think is interesting. So when we're talking about what's good for the people in these situations, homeless individuals are also victims of crimes more often. So the San Diego County District Attorney Office, so the 2022 study showed that homeless individuals face murder 19 times more often, attempted murder 27 times more often, assault 12 times more often, and sexual assault 9 times more often. You ever see like a homeless woman out there and you think about like what she's probably been through, you know?
So this is something that it's weird that you brought up, was on my mind the other day, because I've actually talked to multiple homeless people who talk about the fact, like, why do you find homeless people sleeping behind your gate on property? because when you're homeless and you're sleeping alone by yourself, you want to be hidden. Because
I wouldn't want to be out there alone. That's why they have pit bulls.
But so, like, I remember specifically when I was a janitor, I had a job one night, and I came to the door because someone was knocking while I was cleaning a building, and he was an elderly man who was, it was the middle of the night. He had nothing on him. He had no shoes. And he had clearly, like, been roughed up by somebody. And he was crying and asking me to call the police because he was sleeping in a bush next to the building. And a couple of homeless people went there, held him down, and beat him and took all his stuff.
Yeah.
And
that's terrible.
That's like the most primal version of humans.
And but the thing is I'm sitting there and I'm waiting for the police. I have them on the phone. They're coming by to come talk to him. And this guy is crying to me and talking about how he misses his mom and wants to go stay with his mom. And this guy is my grandfather's age.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, like, God, dude.
That's terrible. I mean, I'm sure the amount of trauma that you go through as a homeless person is just terrible, which it once again just encourages this idea that the only thing that we should treat as a solution is to get them out of the situation, not to make the situation more comfortable. I want to read one more statistics here. So substance abuse and homelessness, because this is something that we're obviously very aware of, and it showed that around 1/3 of people who are homeless have problems with alcohol and or drugs, and around 2/3 of these people have a lifetime history of drug or alcohol use. And then it says 38% of homeless people abused alcohol, while 26% abused other drugs. So honestly, not as high as I thought it would be.
I don't think it's accurate. I think if they're going off people admitting to it's one thing.
If it was off of a survey or off of like maybe a conviction rate or something, then I would say it's
hard
probably
to get those
much
numbers.
lower. Or I'm sorry, it's probably much higher than what's being reported. But still shows that obviously that's
it's a huge
part
issue.
of it there. It's a huge part of it. Eddie, what was the point you said you wanted to make?
Well, just that we were talking about this, and you're saying, you know,
it's my fault. Okay.
No, but I mean, like, we're talking about like the kind of traumatic things that happen and how hard it is to be homeless. And your response is, yeah, exactly, and that's why, you know, we shouldn't make it comfortable to be homeless, and because I
want to get them out of it.
I understand what you're saying, because the idea is not to further their time is homeless. We want to get them out of it, but also, like,
imagine you're in a pit, and you're stuck in a pit, and then they're like, here's a bottle of water, and you're like, well, I'm still in the pit, you know.
Well, see,
it'd be
that's
great
different.
to get out of here.
Or here's a shovel.
Here's the thing though. Do you think that giving them? Do you think that giving them a water is going to make them stay in the pit longer? I would say giving them things to do drugs.
I don't need to get out of this pit. People keep giving me food and water. I don't need to work for it.
I mean, like, I kind of, yes. I mean, I get what you're saying. Like, the water alone, no. But what I'm saying is that, like, kind of, if you make the pit really comfortable, you know, or more comfortable.
Not saying,
you know?
giving them, you know, money and being like, hey, you do you, man. Here's some stuff.
Yeah.
I think what you're saying is important because there is probably a certain amount of help people get a leg up that is necessary from a community, but I don't think it should come from a government. It should come from a community.
Sure.
Yeah,
that's just my standpoint, is that the government shouldn't be mom. The government is supposed to be upholding your rights, which for people who have private property or for people who pay their taxes for a park, it should be upholding the rights for people to not come and sleep in that park. It should be a community of people that go, hey, we need to help that guy because he's homeless. There should never be homeless people, because if you have a good, solid community, it should never happen. But the problem is community has failed, and then mommy government tries to step in. That's my point of view.
And mommy government screws everything up. So I think this is going to be a really interesting topic that we'll probably talk about with the interview with Clint Scherf, because he seemed like he had a lot of things he wanted to say about it. So we'll get a lot of nice insight on that. I want to move on to our final topic of the day here, which was the first city council meeting. We're a little bit behind. This was earlier this month, but they opened in prayer, and I guess there was a little bit of talk about like separation of church and state. So I want to show you guys this video, and then we'll talk a little bit about why that's a BS, the separation of church and state.
So I just thank you, Lord, that there's so much participation here today. And I just pray that you would just fill us with your unity today.
Maybe she's been watching Elon Musk.
She's probably doing, like people do that in church.
Oh, you're probably right. Now I feel bad.
And we just ask your blessing on this meeting and the outcome. In Jesus' name, amen.
Talking through the prayer. Very disrespectful. I was chastising my kids for that this morning.
You want to know something? You made that comment about... how maybe she's just raising her hand to praise or whatever. Somebody needs to put like Hillsong worship over a bunch of Nazis, just like,
That's terrible. That is awful. Lord, please forgive him.
Oh, come on, that was funny.
All
right. Listen, so so the idea here, apparently some people were upset about it because they said separation of church and state, right? So I wanted to talk about this, okay? Because most people do not even realize that separation of church and state is not even in our Constitution.
Nope.
No.
People say it like it is, and it's something that was quoted in a Federalist paper that was not. No?
No, it was a letter that Thomas Jefferson wrote to the Baptist Church of Danbury.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a far reach. It was
just a letter. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a far reach.
And it does communicate, the letter itself communicates the intention of the founding fathers, so it's not that it's not relevant.
Well, just because it's not in the Constitution doesn't mean that it's not a popular sentiment among the American people.
Well, and here's the thing. Here's where you stray away from the intention of the founding fathers, okay? Is that the actual law is, of course, I have it right here. Congress shall make the First Amendment. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Okay, so it's about laws. Okay, Congress shall make no law, and it's followed up right after by or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press. So we shall make no law restricting religion, and we shall also not restrict your free speech, right? So it was about laws. It wasn't about what you can say in your graduation speech, at your public education facility, right? So this is the letter that Thomas Jefferson wrote to the Baptist Association of Danbury. So basically,
did you do this whole graphic?
I did, guys.
This
is like all I was doing today. Okay.
Thank you.
So I literally set aside this day just for the show
I
because
love
I knew
that
we hadn't
it's
done
like
it in a while.
you're always like, I'm an artist. That's a real job.
Yeah.
But anyways, I had time all day to do this.
I actually have commission work I'm supposed to be doing. I set it aside for this. This shows how
CJ,
important
I bet you don't even know what font that is.
Yeah.
That's
I don't know what font that is.
Helvetica.
Yeah. You're probably not far off. All right, so listen, so just to give some reference for this, okay? So the Baptist Association of Danbury, they had written a letter to Thomas Jefferson because they were concerned about restrictions to their religious practice, right? And he responded with this really nice letter. This is just a portion of it. I contemplate with sovereign reference that act of the whole American people which declared that their legislature should make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, thus building a wall of separation between church and state. So in 1947, they had this court case called Everson versus Board of Education, okay? And this is where they first argued. It wasn't until 1947 that they first argued that the separation of church and state was supposed to mean that you weren't allowed to have like public prayer in Congress,
which is what it was supposed to prevent from happening.
It was literally to prevent the government's ability to restrict religious practices. It had nothing to do with keeping religion out of government.
Yeah.
Do you want to know why it took till 1947?
Yeah,
because the whole reason that the Pilgrims came to Oregon was because the monarchy was telling them how they could do their religion, and they said, we're going to go start our own country where anyone could do their religion how they want.
Oh yeah. No, it was a huge part of the founding of the country, because in England you didn't have separation of church and state. You would have the government.
Church was the state.
The church was the state, exactly, and you would be subject to the religious practices of the state, Yeah. And so that was exactly what we were trying to avoid when we founded the country. So in the Everson versus Board of Education, remember, this wasn't until 1947 that people started arguing this the way that they do nowadays. The court claimed that there was to be a wall of separation between church and state, and that religious activities could no longer occur in the public square. So they quote just that one piece, a wall of separation between church and state. And this is a common problem you get into, where the thing is in legal practice, there's the letter, and then there's the spirit of the letter, right? Yeah. And so there's like the intent behind it. So you can't just take a quote and attach your own meaning to it. That would be ridiculous. So what they would normally do in these scenarios is they would research what the intention of the founding fathers was before it, okay? So to give a little bit of backstory here, okay? Thomas Jefferson, both as vice president and president, attended church in the U.S. Capitol many, many times during his time as president. Okay, so they would hold church in the House of Representatives. They would hold it in the same room, right? So if his intention behind this separation of church and state was that there was never supposed to be any crossover. There was never supposed to be any religious practices in any element of government or public spaces. He would have been completely in contrast to that by doing these things. And that's one example, many times.
Sure, I'm pretty sure it was required during the original 13 colonies. I'm pretty sure it was required that you be a part of an organized religion in order to even be a mayor it was actually a part of it in a certain extent because it showed your character and that you believed in a higher power.
So they're actually,
we're one nation under God. We're not a nation under atheism or no God. You know?
I know what you're talking about because that's actually the reason that we swear on a Bible when you swear someone in, is because they believe that you were unfit for office if you didn't believe in a higher power, because your words didn't mean anything. You know, there was no retribution if you lied. You know, because, so
what were you under? What authority were you under? And then you come to, okay, well then how is that different than, you know, being under the church? You can choose your church. You can choose your belief. You can be in this country and you can be Muslim. You can be a Sikh. You can be Buddhist. You can be those things, and you have the freedom to be that. But when it comes to a city council meeting, right?
Yeah.
Why would anyone not have the freedom when we have freedom of speech and freedom to practice religion? Why would a city council member not have the freedom to open in prayer, especially when it comes to something like they're a city council, right? They're council. They are actually seeking good for the people. They're seeking wisdom for the people, seeking to do good decision making. Wouldn't you want those people to be having the type of character where they're seeking a higher power's wisdom?
But you're the people that are complaining about this are the same people that probably thinks being a Christian means you're a horrible person.
And that's really like one of those things that I would agree with you, because so many people have done it so wrong. Right? You have so many people who take the name of Christ. And this is a conversation I had with someone recently where they were saying they don't believe taking the Lord's name in vain is when you say, oh my. And they don't believe that's the case. They believe it's when you say you're a Christian and you don't act like it. That's taking the Lord's name in vain. And I'm not saying I believe one way or the other on that, but I thought it was an interesting perspective because you have a lot of people...
Both can be true.
Right, both can be true. You have a lot of people who have been like, oh, well, my pastor had an affair, and so he said he was a good person or whatever, and he's not. Or he said he was a Christian, and he's not. Or someone whose parents force religion on them, and it's like, we were talking about this before we started the podcast. Anything that's really good, as soon as you force it, it's no longer good. Yep. Playing with a friend, if they force you to play with them, it's no longer good. You know, intimacy with your wife, no longer good if you force it. It's like food. If I'm going to shove a hot dog down your throat, it's no longer good.
Why specifically
exactly.
that food
and so
came to your mind?
I like hot dogs, I guess. I don't know. But when it comes to, exactly what you said, charity, socialism, completely different things. Yeah. One is willing, one is forced.
Yeah.
You
touched on something that I think is like really just kind of destroys the argument of the separation of church and state, is that the version of separation of church and state that Everson versus Board of Education describes cannot exist alongside the First Amendment. And the reason is because it violates the right to free speech, right? And so there was this other court case much earlier, much before the Everson versus Board of Education, Reynolds versus United States. This is in 1878, okay? And so this is back when they actually still had an understanding of what separation of church and state was. And in this court case, they actually include the entire letter from Thomas Jefferson. They don't just do that one little 8-word sentence or whatever, okay? So here's from Reynolds versus United States. The rightful purposes of civil government are for its officers to interfere when principles break out into overt acts against peace and good order. In this is found the true distinction between what properly belongs to the church and what to the state. So the idea here is that the only time that government interferes with the practice of religion is if that religion violates
peace and good order.
What they're saying is, conducive to peace and good order. So they actually, in the court case, they go on further. I don't have it quoted here, but they go on further to describe things like human sacrifice, infanticide, religious practices that might be found in extreme religions that are not conducive to peace and good order.
Not eating pork.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So say like Sharia law broke out, and they're basically
beating women, I don't know what's in Sharia law.
People, right? Whatever extreme acts that are
Kill
overtly against, or even just say like something like in the Old Testament when people were worshiping Baal, and part of that was sacrificing a baby, like you said, infanticide. Like those are things that you do not have the freedom to practice that religion, because you can't just say something evil is a part of your religion. We have laws that keep you from doing evil.
And the thing is what's a really good guide for this is, does the religious practice violate any of the other laws that are already in place?
Just measure them against it.
Obviously infanticide, murder, so it doesn't count, right?
Here's the thing,
but freedom of speech, making a prayer before a council meeting, absolutely not. That's totally permissible.
This may be a little bit of a big topic for what we're going over, because at the end of the day, I don't care whether they do or don't pray before the thing. And that's
when he's Chippewa, so he already did like a little obeisance to the sun god or whatever. So
But when it comes to separation
lit a buffalo on fire, I don't know what the hell you do.
Church and state. I think they're awesome.
Sorry, man. Go
King
ahead.
Henry is a good idea of how things
could get out of hand.
Well, so like if church and state aren't separated, what's to stop the church from going, hey, we need to go over to the Middle East and kill these people, and now we have the Crusades, because the state goes, okay, church. What's the stop?
I'm pretty sure the Crusades were in response to persecution.
The original Crusades. There was a lot of Crusades. But then you have things like King Henry, where King Henry wanted to divorce his wife and marry more, and wanted to keep doing that. Yeah. And the church told him, you can't do that. And he said,
that was actually a catalyst for the separation of church and state?
That's why he was like, guess what, guys? We're separating church and state.
Yeah.
You know what we're going to say?
Yeah.
I don't know about any of that, but I do know that with our local government, I like the idea that they're praying before city council meetings, because it makes me think that maybe they'll be in the right state of mind when they do the decision making, because maybe it'll bring to some people's mind that we serve a God who is truth.
Yeah.
And they will be a little bit more honest about the practices.
I think my biggest issue with it is that is a good argument for you and a good argument for people who are Christians and believe in that. But what's a good argument for that for people who don't?
That if you don't want to obey truth, you probably shouldn't be in a society that operates on honest tradition.
When you want to know something,
like if you're not going to be honest,
I get what
then how can you do good business? How can you how can you basically operate in the society?
Because it kind of turns into a deeper argument of like, is Christianity positive for a government and for a community? And the thing is, historically, clearly it is. The laws of the country were based off the Ten Commandments. So clearly, Christianity has had a positive effect on society. It's a large reason why we're such a prosperous society. So it kind of turns into like a bit of a different argument.
If you didn't even believe in God and you did the practices like when, of Christianity,
they kicked off all the Native Americans and put them on reservations, and they said God said we could do it.
Are you bitter about that?
Yeah, he's still a little bitter. Yeah,
it's one of those things that I didn't do it, so I don't feel very responsible.
I know.
There've been plenty of things. There've been plenty of things done in God's name that were unrighteous, but that doesn't mean that the principles that we've instilled in our country that were based off Christian principles are not the very reason that we're such a prosperous country in the first place.
I'm not saying this because I disagree with you.
Yeah,
and because I want to argue with you.
We gave you fire water, okay?
Or because I'm bitter about that. That's not it. I'm just I think it's important to have that. Like you said, if you can't be questioned.
Oh yeah, it's got to be able to be argued. It's got to be to show that it's true. Because if you can't argue it to prove that it's true or to prove that it's right, and I think that it's pretty obvious that a society that focuses on doing good because they're held accountable for it, I think that's a positive. And I think that when you talk about this, basically as long as it doesn't interrupt the peace and good order, is that what it said? Yeah, peace and good order. Yeah. I think that that's a pretty clear distinction. It doesn't matter what religion you're adhering to. And people are free to not it's not like this would be wrong. I would feel that it was wrong if they were like, okay, everybody pray. Mm-hmm. You can't tell people to pray at a city council meeting. But if they said, hey, I'm going to, nothing forced. Yeah. If they said, hey, I'm going to pray before I open up this meeting because they're the city council, that's totally their right. Just like they could say, hey, we're going to take a moment of silence for Michael Jackson. They could do whatever they want, right? It's like, I wouldn't care.
If anyone ever took a moment of silence for Michael Jackson, I would wait for the opportune moment and then just go, and they'd be like, his ghost.
He's here. No, I just really think that it's their right to, and I think that overall it's good. And yeah, that is my opinion. That is my standpoint. But I think it's actually the standpoint of our nation's founding. Our nation's founding is one nation under God.
Yeah, absolutely. So, no, it's true.
I'd like our leadership to be in adherence to that. And
you want to know something? Like, let's let it play out and see. Let's see where it goes. Because like if them opening in prayer ends up in the worst, the worst Grants Pass we've ever seen, like it'll show itself. Come on, just like chill out. Don't freak out about it.
I did see more positive comments about it than negative, which kind of gave me hope. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like maybe it'll become a thing where people can actually be on the same team.
Yeah. Well, should we wrap up this episode, man? Men, gentlemen, fellas, guys.
Wrap it up like
Bros,
a Christmas present.
Yeah, chaps. Yeah.
Kimosabis.
Yeah. I'd say this was like a very like unhinged episode, but I actually kind of liked it.
This was like a lot of energy.
It was a lot of energy, man. It's good. I think we got over a lot of cool topics. We're going to like go full steam ahead on the Oregon Grape. That's the plan is to we're going to be moving forward, we're going to be doing at least one episode a week, hopefully get some more in and just kind of keep developing it. Like Eddie was saying, we have some other ideas that we want to, some different segments and stuff that we're going to bring in, maybe kind of leaving the studio doing some on the street stuff, maybe reviewing some local restaurants and kind of get into that.
We're going to bring in a pet monkey, spice things up.
Yeah, absolutely.
That'd be cool.
The pet monkey is on order. I hope they remember to poke holes in the box. It's coming from Nicaragua, so no.
I think it'd be cool to have some fun guests on, maybe some local businesses, maybe some. I know of a couple people that I think it would be really interesting to have on. Yeah, and it's gonna be fun, dude.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, guys, we're out. Thank you for watching.